iOS 18 is all about Apple intelligence.
around
intelligence and AI is at the center of everything we do. AI.
Tim, okay, when is iOS 18 coming out?
It's coming out today.
Finally, we can see if Apple intelligence is all it's cracked up to be.
Well, it's not ready yet, actually, so you'll have to wait till next month.
Well, at least my iPhone 15 is not worth upgrading.
Excuse me, did you say 15 or 15 Pro?
Tim, I spent over $1,000 on an iPhone 15 Plus. Are you telling me that's not getting Apple intelligence?
No, I'm simply telling you good morning!
Alright, I've finally installed the public release of iOS 18 on my iPhone. In case some of you are wondering, Drew, why didn't you just do the beta? Well, now my phone is too important, I guess. It's become a work tool, not just for Tailosive content, but also for my job at Telo Trucks, and I just did not feel comfortable putting beta software on it because I'm so dependent on it now. I didn't have a backup iPhone I could default to if something went wrong with this one. So this was the first year that I decided to officially just hold on to iOS 17 until iOS 18 got the public release, and now I've had it for a little over 24 hours, and my first impressions are, well, I'm grateful that this is pretty stable, okay? I've seen horror stories in the past where, like, the day one launch of a new iOS version just created all kinds of overheating issues and battery drain issues, and a bunch of the features were buggy. I'm happy to report most of the features I've played with, I haven't found any bugs, any glitches. Everything appears to be working, which I know may not sound like a big deal, but software development is incredibly complex, and bug patching is not an exact science. There's an art to it, and I think that software developers and engineers probably get underappreciated in today's world, because sending out a brand new operating system with so many new changes across so many different types of hardware, it's likely, in my opinion, that you would find some issues and bugs and it would never be perfect. But so far, so good, at least on my end. But I think the far more noticeable change with iOS 18 compared to 17 really comes down to customization between the home screen and control center. A little bit more customization on the lock screen as well, although I've had these two toggles ever since the iPhone 10 days, the flashlight and the camera, and now that I can finally change them, I realized, yeah, having the flashlight there is pretty smart. That's pretty handy. Although my action button is already set to launch the camera, so I got rid of that other toggle that was for launching the camera a third different way, and now have it set to open Twitter, because I'm constantly checking Twitter for interacting with people and checking the news and that kind of thing. But when it came to the home screen redesign, now Apple's letting you put apps anywhere on the home screen. Finally, we've been asking for that for a very long time. And with all of the hype and talk about new dark mode icons and tinted icons, I was really hoping that since the beta has been around since last June, that all of the apps would be updated and ready to go to be more theme pack friendly, you know, so that you could change the colors of them or go into a dark mode version of them. And yet, similar to the exact same issue I had with Android and Material You, yeah, it really only takes one or two applications that don't get on board with the whole dark mode tinted effect and result in it kind of breaking the whole illusion that it was going for. So, sorry, I don't really get too much into the dark mode app icons because sadly Instagram and Twitter are not getting around to updating their icons, and they just stick out like a sore thumb whenever I try to use those tinted theme options, so I end up just leaving it on light mode. Although I am finally very grateful that we can remove the app icon labels. I've wanted to do that since day one because I know what the apps do. I can see the logo. I don't need a reminder every single time I open my phone that that's the camera app, that's the photos app. So that was long overdue, and I'm very grateful it's gone. However, it is taking some getting used to, because in order to get rid of those icon labels, they have to make all the apps really, really big. So even though it's pretty much the same information as before, it does feel a little weird to me that all of the apps are so big. It feels like I have some kind of accessibility mode turned on for people with poor eyesight, which I do, but it's more for things far away, not for things up close. So I'm slowly getting used to it and everything, and as soon as I had so many different options to customize the home screen with, I quickly realized I'm not a very creative person, and now more so than ever, there are so many ways to design a horrible, ugly, disgusting home screen and wallpaper setup. I quickly discovered that, and I was like, hey, I like the color red, and let me try to put some icons at the bottom now, since I can do that, and I quickly was like, I don't like this. I have too much control and too much freedom. I guess this is what happens when the apple sheep gets out of the walled garden. It's just like, too many options. I don't know what to think anymore. Apple, please, Mr. Federighi, tell me what my home screen is supposed to look like. We weren't meant to have this many controls. That's why there's so many bad ways to design iOS layouts now that I decided, okay, I'm gonna go with a more traditional kind of cliche wallpaper and lock screen setup and everything. So now I have my apps more towards the bottom. I tried to somewhat organize them with like default iOS applications followed by work applications, and then I always like settings near the bottom. But then I had all of this empty space at the top of the screen, so I decided to put the photos widget up there. Just kind of randomly shuffles through some nice photos I've taken over the years, and I quickly realized, wow, this whole home screen layout I could have done before anyway, because technically I just needed to add a photos widget to the top. So maybe customization is not really something I care all that much about. Because I use my phone as a tool, I'm using it right now to record this video, I was more interested in just like, how do I make my home screen more functional? It's not necessarily about it making it cleaner or super aesthetically pleasing. I just want to be able to reach every app a lot easier. So on my second page of apps, I did move some more things that are commonly used to the bottom instead of being at the top like they were before. So I did appreciate that, but similar story with Control Center. It was like, wow, okay, I have so many different pages I can customize now. What things do I really utilize the most often? Which options should I have near the top and make them easier to access? And I quickly realized, yeah, kind of the way Control Center was before was pretty good, actually. I had everything I needed in the first place, and now I have way more options than I know what to do with. Although I was getting kind of sick of having to unbury the personal hotspot setting, because I do use that pretty frequently, so I put that near the top. The now playing and AirPlay stuff I wasn't using all that much, so I just moved it a little bit more to the bottom. But yeah, a lot of the same Control Center toggles that were there before are there now, and I'm not the kind of guy that wants to completely fill it up, because really it would just complicate the UI and confuse people who are using my phone. So I'm happy with kind of the way it was, but I guess now it's been redesigned, so it looks a little cleaner. Boy, whoever worked on that flashlight animation did an incredible job. Went above and beyond the Call of Duty to make sure that the flash could be adjustable with its levels and be widespread and narrow. Also, same team who worked really hard on making sure that those volume buttons provided little indents on the side. Very subtle little detail, but I love it. Those are the kinds of animations and nitty-gritty pointless things that Apple does that kind of make me love them so much. But unfortunately, what I don't love so much about iOS 18 is the new Photos app. Some people are in love with it, but personally, I think this is kind of like if someone went into your fridge and completely just rearranged everything. The freezer is now at the bottom. All of the produce that was down here is now up here, and it just feels all wrong and backwards. At least for a guy like me who's used to going into the media segments individually, like just show me the videos, or after I'm done recording work videos, I delete them, of course, and I want to have a way to easily get to recently deleted. So thankfully, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can rearrange the segments in Photos, but I still just think there's way too many, and I am a techie guy who's usually a futurist and okay adjusting to the latest and greatest generation of things, but I think there's going to be a lot of everyday consumers that are one day just going to be like, oh, iOS 18? Okay, I guess I should install it, whatever, and then they're going to wake up and not know where any of their photos have gone. It's going to be a learning curve, so my one request is that Apple just keep it the way it is, just don't change it like this all the time, because a lot of people, I think, are going to be upset personally, and I don't think it's really much better in any regards. It's different. It's like, okay, your recents are here and you can slide between years and months, and then you have to swipe down a little bit more than usual to unlock more like faces and individuals and locations. I like the map feature where you can just zoom in and see where photos were taken and everything like that, but to me it just feels like change for the sake of change. It was like, okay, maybe it's a little bit more modern of a UI than before, but honestly, genuinely speaking, what was wrong with the old Photos app? Was there really an issue with it? Were a lot of people complaining about that, or did Apple just say, we gotta make iOS 18 feel like it's different, so let's just go ahead and start changing things and moving things around? But takes some getting used to. I'm sure I'll get the hang of it, but I moved all of the media folders and recently deleted stuff up to the top to make it a little bit more familiar to me, but honestly, I feel like I'm slowly customizing it to be back the way it was, which isn't a good place to be in. So that's gonna get old and kind of annoying fast, I think, for a lot of people, but hey, we got RCS support now. at least if your carrier supports it, because unfortunately, as much as I love the affordability and simple account management of Mint Mobile, there's no RCS settings to be found anywhere. Not that I have a lot of people that I'm SMS texting. I think I've cut out all of the Android people in my life, but no, on a more realistic term, most of the people I text that are on Android preferred texting me anyway through Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. So I'm typically using those for all of my Android friends, which is why RCS, even if it was brought to Mint Mobile, I probably wouldn't utilize it all that much, but I'm grateful it's there, and I hope that more carriers support it soon, because you shouldn't have to download third-party apps to be able to have, reactions to messages and read receipts and high-quality photos and videos. So I'm glad Apple's supporting it, but yeah, at least on day one, it's not really a big wow moment for me at this point. There are also some pretty cool changes to the voice memo app. This was one of the few places I found a little bug where I tried to do the transcript feature and it just said you need an internet connection for this feature to work, even though I was on Wi-Fi, so I knew it should be working. But once I jumped back into the app, it did functionally start working. Similar to the Apple Podcasts app, how it can like transcribe the audio for you. It's cool to have that now on previously recorded voice memos, which is kind of handy. There was some light redesign tweaks to the calendar app, which I'm using more and more these days. It just feels like me and my wife's schedules are getting busier and busier. That's actually one of the main issues I'm going to have if I try to switch over to a Pixel, is losing the iOS calendar. I know you can kind of import your calendar events in a read-only version for Google Calendar, but I need to be able to update them and edit them because so much stuff is going on outside of YouTube work now that, yeah, without Apple just directly porting an iOS calendar app to Google, it's going to be a very difficult transition to an other ecosystem. But I think what honestly might prevent me from trying a Pixel is how good the studio quality microphones are on the iPhone 16 series. Yes, I am picking up a 16 Pro Max this Friday. Can't wait to try it out. I'm very excited to test that, mostly the audio, because I record so much stuff on my phone that kind of relates to me. But yeah, without Apple Intelligence really ready to launch yet, I must say, aside from the home screen changes, there's really not a lot of major upgrades this year. And if anything, I do feel like we're getting to that point where the iOS team is probably like, okay, we gotta think of something. We gotta think of something to have, a 30-minute segment at Dub, so let's just start changing things. Let's just start rearranging things around. And a lot of it is making me just like, yeah, is this really all you got? Maybe I want to see what's out there outside of the Apple ecosystem. Even though I know it'd be a difficult transition, there's just so minor updates now. Minor updates that I feel like could have been added to iOS 17, but half the time I feel like they go, wait, that's a pretty big change. Let's not add that now because we gotta save it for next year so that we have something to talk about with iOS 18 or iOS 19. Like giving passwords its own dedicated app. A lot of people were against that, but I feel like, a lot of everyday consumers out there probably need to know where their passwords are, and we're sick of having to scroll through the bottomless pit of the settings app. So thankfully they have changed that, where now there's just a very small menu and at the bottom there's apps if you need to find more. But having a dedicated passwords app, I think for older people or people that weren't aware of all of the things buried in settings, that is better. But again, why couldn't you have just made a dedicated one with iOS 17? Why did that have to go into beta and testing, and we all had to wait until September to come around for actually that feature to be available? I feel like that's the kind of thing that you could have just done in a iOS 17 dot something update. There's still some more changes supposed to be coming to the Mail app that aren't ready yet, that help kind of sort through primary emails and work emails and that kind of thing. So once again, iOS 18 is out, but I feel like the biggest headlining features, of course, being Apple Intelligence, none of those are ready, even on my iPhone 15 Pro, which is supposed to get them, and it's another sign that the smartphone field is very much maturing. It's kind of running out of functional things to add, but I still have more requests. Like, I still think it should be easier for me to import files and footage off my phone via a wire to the computer, not have to hope that AirDrop is using the wire versus using wirelessly. It's still impossible for me to tell. And I was really actually excited to try out the iOS screen mirroring feature, where I can control my iPhone via my Mac if it's running Sequoia, which my iMac Pro is, and I tried it out, and yeah, it works fairly well, but the main primary reason I was interested in iPhone mirroring was so that when I was using my phone as a continuity camera, like a webcam, I could still manage social media apps, because that's usually the point where my iPhone is unavailable. When I turn it into a webcam for a conference call or a live stream or something like that, it's like, oh, I still want to be able to use my phone to use GoDaddy Studio or look at my credit card, but I can't because now my phone is occupied up here, and yet iPhone mirroring doesn't work if you're using it as continuity camera. So now the only point in using iPhone mirroring is if I leave my phone in my bag, which I would never do. Pretty much my phone stays in my pocket, and if it's not in my pocket, I take it out and put it on my desk. So I was really hyped for that feature, but the execution of it, in my opinion, was kind of botched, and I'm thankful that I've still been able to record lots of videos with it without having too many bugs. Occasionally, I'll have the iPhone video mode like take a while to start recording, or about 3 or 4 times in the past year, there's been times where I started recording and then the phone freezes. My brand new iPhone 15 Pro was already freezing after just 4 seconds of recording, and then I would lose that footage. It overheated when I did the event recap thing, but still, I've had buggier software releases in the past, so I'm thankful that it is stable, but features themselves are kind of like, yeah, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. There's not a ton more they can do, so a lot of it is just change for the sake of change, but here's hoping Apple Intelligence blows me away. I'm not impressed from what I've seen so far, but what do you guys think of iOS 18 within your first couple days or months using it? If you've been on the beta, feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you all in the next one.